Hey everybody, it is just after 2 UTC here on Tuesday the 4th, catching up with some market updates after a long stint of having the flu, which was fun. Anyways, let's jump right into it. So this week, today specifically, we got JOLTS job openings, which is too crazy. Starting Wednesday, we have a non-farm employment change and then some ISM ratings. The bigger data comes in on Thursday and Friday. Initial jobless claims on an hour before the market opens. And then Friday, we have three big data sets: average hourly earnings, non-farm payrolls, and unemployment rates. So these are all pre-market, so expect about an hour before the New York opens Thursday, Friday, we're gonna have some bigger movements pre-market. Looking specifically to Bitcoin, yeah, we've had a pretty big flush out. We'll go through the whole thing because we actually did probably the strongest recovery higher time frame that I've ever seen, with some local failures, but we'll go through it. Just since the move down, basically, we saw aggressively people were trying to long the move. Then as we started collapsing and capitulating, lots of people started flipping short really aggressively as we started moving higher. The big move effectively really wrecked a lot of the longs. I think it was the biggest 24-hour liquidation ever, something like $10 billion. Yeah, with a really strong recovery on the day. Now we're seeing some uptick in the last a couple 4-hour periods of people trying to press the green button, pretty significantly so 5% increase over this morning. And then also just recently, it's just a little bit of dip as we're seeing a little bit of sideways, a little bit of uppishness, but we've already broken down on some lower time frames. On the funding rate side, we're back to closer to neutral. It was very bullish yesterday. The big outliers, OKX, pretty consistently negative. They've been like that for the last 2 days or so. And then all of the rest of them are pretty neutral effectively. So not a whole lot of building back. Looking over the liquidation heat map, yeah, the move that we talked about finally happened. We talked about coming back down to 94.5, coming back down to the lows, the absolute low test. This is now the general low that needs to hold. I effectively don't want to see any losses of 95K on any 4-hour or higher time frame. If we do start to fail this structure, make a new low after what we did on Monday, I would expect that we do a mid 80s retest, and that would be absolutely brutal. In the higher time frame, yes, you are trending down ever since the all-time high. However, if you can manage to hold the low and create a higher high back above 106, you could effectively be looking at a trend change back up, as this significant downside move we saw yesterday is a higher low than what we saw back on the 13th of January. On the liquidity heat map here, just looking at the resting orders in general, we do have some stuff below us, like 96, basically losing the local swing. It looks a little bit rough. We're not really regaining anything locally. I would say anything that locally regains, call it 99.5 even, we could be seeing a test at like 100.7. We've got basically the trend change back down occurred approximately 5 a.m. my time. So bit of a local failure. We've created some new lows that lost some structure, and with some bigger retests back towards 95K still possible. So watch and see if we start sweeping like 97.7, 97.8. If we do, there's a much bigger chance of a retest at like 95.8 and back down to like 95K structure. So looking over the chart, we'll go through all of the stuff from the weekend to now. So basically, it looked pretty decent going into the Friday close, up until we did this 4-hour candle. This 4-hour candle did two things specifically. Not only did we fail the previous weekly open, we closed below it, but we also saw the next one, we saw bearish retests of that level with some continuation down. Secondarily, going into late Saturday, we actually started seeing a failure of the range. So we basically, 4-hour period, the Saturday close to the Sunday open, this candle here basically said, nope, we're rejecting the fact that we're holding a tight range over the weekend, and the big liquidation started happening. So that slide in general took us way down to the downside. We closed back above, we still closed above stuff well on the weekly, and we've now done a pretty decent buyback, I think, from the low to the high, right? Pretty massive 12% move, 11K upside move within the day, with the daily actually closing out very bullish and very strong. So that all being said, what are we doing locally? So locally, you've had some local failures. You've created some new 4-hour lows, and you're retesting a bigger level here, 99.5, as a resistance point. You've got stuff below you that's not fully tested. You've got the weekly open, you've got the previous monthly, and more importantly, in my mind, you've got 95K. So here is a pretty interesting zone. I'm really hoping for a bigger hold, kind of like of this general area, just because I would expect that if we do happen to create new lows with this bottom of this swing already fully tested, that any new lows that start losing 95K, likely to see a move down towards the lows again and potentially down towards the mid 80s. So we're not out of the woods yet. The recovery was still very strong. So let's talk about the bullish case scenario. If we start getting some local flips here, moving back up towards the daily open, because we've already tested the monthly, we've already tested all of the stuff above us, the last place to fail would be approximately the daily open around 101.3. So this is an old level as well, 101.3. It's been, high time frame support and resistance throughout this entire structure. So if we are going to fail somewhere, we want to see a gain here and then a failure of the high. If we gain the high here, we're very simply going to squeeze straight through all the way up to 105. And that's very possible. So I'd want to see if we have a gain of the local structure, the 99.5, regaining 100K, I want to see a move up to the daily open. If we're going to see a local failure, it's going to happen here to break us back down. And then as we are locally losing levels, what we want to see is one of two things: either a failure here that breaks us back down to the low, failure of the weekly open, which is untested, to move us back down toward 95K. I think the freer move was actually the buyback yesterday. This is a little bit crabby, grindy, but this move at the high, what we've actually done with this is we've also retested levels at the same time as we filled a massive CME gap, which right now, I believe the CME is still trading, let's see, at a pretty strong premium. So about a $900 premium, or $1,000 premium really, to the rest of the market. So the CME is still looking for angling upside and higher. That's good. We want to see that they're not in backwardization. They're trading at a discount to the rest of the crypto market. So realistically, yes, you do have some local priority. You could flip that very simply by a localized gain, which should take you to the daily open. And then that's where the last point of failure before you go back up to test the highs around 104 and 105K. So beyond that, yep, play the level. If you see the regain here, you are regaining levels, go back and test stuff. If you see the continuation loss, which we are in a localized downtrend, that would probably be the case that we move a bit lower. And realistically, if we start losing this low, let's just call it that, 98.2, I would expect us to test the weekly. And if we lose the weekly, we're going back down towards likely 96, 95K. So you've got some local priority down, right? You can invalidate that really quickly by regaining the level that's holding you down as resistance, 99.5. I call it 99.4. So if you regain that, then you want to see retests higher up in the structure. This is the last point of failure. If we gain that at all, you're probably going to see an accelerated move up to 104.5, 105K. But yeah, play the trend. The trend is your friend, and I will catch you all tomorrow as I'm starting to finally recover. So have a good one. Take it easy. Peace out.